In the last little while, I've been struck by just how so many of us are struggling with this second lockdown, how difficult it seems to be this time around to find purpose and focus and meaning. And I thought back over times where I've had to be resilient. And I thought back, I suppose, to the darkest moment of my life, one of the darkest moments of my life. And what made a difference in that moment was the attention of a friend, somebody who just came alongside with no intention to heal or to fix, but just to acknowledge. And my friend, who I know would want to remain nameless, gave me a piece of paper in the middle of a Marks meeting. She passed across a piece of paper, and on it was the poem The Journey by Mary Oliver. And Mary Oliver has since become a deep source of inspiration to me. And if you haven't come across the poetry of Mary Oliver yet, I really encourage you to read her poems and her essays. And if you know her work, go back to them. They are such a joy. So thinking about that small moment that made the most profound difference in my life, I wrote this poem, but it also talks about another small moment where Mary Oliver, walking along the Sound in Florida with her rescue dog Percy, finds an injured gull, and she picks it up and takes it home, and she and her partner Molly look after the gull, and they try to mend it, and every day they place it on the windowsill and turn it to the sun. Such a small, wonderful act of kindness, to pay attention and just to turn someone to the sun. And I'm convinced that it is in the small things that we do for one another that we save one another. Certainly I know that that is true for me. So this poem is called Mary Oliver Saved My Life, and it's based on her poem, The Journey. Mary Oliver saved my life. It was mid-morning, or it may have been afternoon, on a hot summer day, but perhaps it was raining. Focus bent to the journey and its ending. I knew what I had to do, keeping counsel with my own bad advice. There was nothing to mend, I thought. Mary Oliver slid across my desk, dressed in white and covered in words, summoned by one who loved me more than I loved myself. Mary Oliver lay face up, silent, patient. Somewhere else, she was away with Molly, walking the Sound, rescuing an injured gull, placing it each day at the open window to see the rising sun, wishing it wings, mending. It's early morning, Sunday. It's summer. Birds are chattering, flying. The dogs are sleeping. My love is drinking coffee. Such an ordinary, extraordinary morning. Mend it. Rest where you are now. There are poem hands more gentle than you've ever known, holding you, turning you to the rising sun, wishing for wings, mending. The gull, as I said, did not find its wings. And we are faced with many moments now where we would wish for wings, but they're not there. And Mary Oliver says in The Uses of Sorrow, someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift. Someone I once loved gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this too was a gift. Perhaps the greatest gift to me from Mary Oliver comes in her Instructions for Living a Life, where she says, pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. Attention is devotion. And it is, again, in those small moments of attention where we can find our rising, our wings. I must thank Mary Oliver for her poem, The Journey, and I gift it to you, hoping that perhaps it will come to you in a place where you too need to hear it. The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day, you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds. There was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own. There was a new voice that you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Mary Oliver saved my life. It was mid-morning, or it may have been afternoon on a hot summer day, but perhaps it was ending, focus bent on the journey and its ending. I wonder if our focus now is not on the ending of the journey, but how we pay attention to the next small kindness, how we pay attention to the next small step. The world doesn't seem to have dates and plans at the moment, and so what we must have is hope. And so I wish you hope and a journey full of attention to detail, to birds and rescued dogs and wonderful